contemplating it, that's good, but I feel like there's something better in there to come.
I'm going to peek later, maybe.
Right, sounds good. I'm glad I held it in then. Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year podcast, brought to you by two Brits and a Bible. If you like the idea of a casual but meaningful chat about the Bible, a couple of mates listening, something that could be good for you today.
Today is day 229, covering Jeremiah 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. If you need a brief overview of those chapters, they're in the description.
Had the music playing in my head that time. That doesn't always happen. It's fun, isn't it? What's that?
Said you good?
Yeah. I realised as I was doing my intro that I wasn't wearing a hat, and it's just out of reach. So when you're doing your first point, I might just like lean out a shot and come back with a Blue Jays cap on. So
Love that.
Kishti, so kicking us off, Jeremiah 18, verse 4. And it's this whole section in here about, but the pot he was shaping from the clay was marred in his hands. So the potter formed it into another pot, shaping it as seemed best to him. And we've heard quite a lot in this sort of analogy of a potter shaping clay, and, you know, clay talk back to the potter and ask what it's being made into, stuff like that. But this one's slightly different, and I love it because it's effectively saying that God can form us into what he wants, but if it isn't working to his purpose, he can reshape us into something different. And I think so often we can get super caught up in what we think God wants us to do, what we want to do, what someone's told us we're good at, that we're so reluctant to actually change and be willing to adapt. But actually we need to realize that sometimes God is calling us away from what might already be good into something that's better, but we have to kind of disassemble what we're used to and grow back into something different.
That's good, and maybe something will be better later, as you were talking about God making us something we're doing that's good and then better. But yeah, absolutely, dude. My first point was from 18:6, but effectively the same thing. The only other thing I'd add to it is when we were talking about silver, you're trying to get the hat, aren't you? I think you got it. Nice.
Oh, I have all of wrapping paper because yesterday was Melody's birthday and I fetched it.
that's some.
That's better.
That's some MacGyver stuff right there. Using the stuff around you. Anyway, the only thing I'd add is much like when we're being refined, so all the dross is being taken out of us in silver refinement, right? That we've talked about before. With clay, it's not exactly the same, but obviously, again, a potter has to put immense concentration into whatever they are molding, right? So again, I just love that image that God has so much concentration and focus on us at all times when he's remolding us.
True that. And it's the same kind of thing where we said with sin in the past, it can start just tiny, but then it can quickly unravel. It's the same when you're shaping a pot on a wheel, right? It can go just a little bit wrong, but that little bit wrong can just knock off your center of gravity and everything can fall apart.
Exactly. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, so I think you might as well do the honors because 18:12. I've got the dyslexic version, which is 18:21.
So 18:12. But they will reply, it's no use. We will continue with our own plans and we'll all follow the stubbornness of our evil hearts. So it kind of ties into what we were just saying about God's plans can be better, but we'll continue to follow our own stubborn plans. But this is actually referring to people that are non-Christians, just refusing to even get on the potter's wheel in the first place. And it's like, it kind of gives us a bit of hope because so often, take you and I, for example, the amount of times that I would try and talk to you about Christianity and be like, but it makes so much sense. And I was never I'm never going to be the perfect Christian, but I was never a great Christian role model for what true Christianity can look like because I sacrificed and whatever the flipping word is. I wasn't great, basically. No, you know what I mean. I was a bit.
You were also a teenage boy, so you were still sort of learning it yourself.
Yeah. But despite what the plans are, people are saying to God, I see what you're doing. I'm just going to continue following my own stubborn plans. And it's like, if God can't convince people to come and follow him, then sort of what hope do we have? Just do what you're told to do your part. And hopefully God will hold up his end of the bargain. Well, God always holds up his end of the bargain. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, dude. And yeah, you're exactly right. For years, I wouldn't even get on the potter's wheel, as you said. And you did your part, even if you don't think you did it well, you did, because I ended up where I am now. But ultimately, it's God's timing, not yours, not mine, not anyone's, right? Other than God. So, yeah, but you're exactly right. Just stick to God's plan once you're on the wheel, and don't worry about anyone else too much, but obviously pray for them. I'll just dive in and do 1821 if that's all right. I know you're going to do 1820. They're probably going to be the same point, to be honest, because so give their children over to famine, hand them over to the power of the sword. Let their wives be made childless and widows. Let their men be put to death, their young men slain by the sword in battle. So that's Jeremiah 18:21. It's an incredibly intense prayer to ask God to absolutely decimate and destroy your enemies in this way. And it points me almost to Jesus for the fact that he was the opposite, right? Jesus tells us to pray for our enemies, to love our enemies. And yet here in Jeremiah, he's literally asking for them to be ruined. And sometimes I don't think I've ever felt quite like this about my enemies, so to speak, but you do get the sense sometimes that when things aren't going well, you might have some maleficence towards people a little bit, right?
Yeah, fair.
And it's not a good thing.
Very true. I was going to make a slightly different point from the verse before. Also, the word I was looking for earlier was compromise, not exactly that, but I compromise my Christianity for the sake of, the
world.
So the point I was making in 1820, it's basically Jesus saying, listen, remember, I stood before you and spoke on, saying to God, I stood before you and spoke on their behalf to turn your wrath away from them. So like, this is not only basically Jeremiah is trying to save these people, even though they don't deserve saving. And they're still trying to kill it. Like, not only, it's just like this whole, not only can in trying to evangelize to people and they might not want to, sometimes you can be like battling for people's salvation and they want to flipping kill you out the back of it. Like, right. Jeremiah came up against this sort of stuff. There's a good chance we're going to come up against some difficulties.
Absolutely. All right. So now I'm into 20, verse 18. Why did I ever come out of the womb to see trouble and sorrow and to end my days in shame? So he has these brutal, intense prayers in 18. He has equally brutal, intense prayers and thoughts in 20, right? So Jezza being so unstable in this moment that he's literally like saying he wishes he'd never been born, basically, right? But the weight of being a prophet is shown here as well, because only a few verses after this, he's talking about singing to the Lord and praising the Lord. So, the Christian life can be quite up and down. And if you're someone who's quite emotional anyway, like Jezza seems to be, then it can even more so be like real highs and real lows.
Very true, man. Very true. I'm contemplating it. That's good, but I feel like there's something better in there to come.
I'm going to peek later, maybe.
Right. Sounds good. I'm glad I held it in then. Into Jezza 21 verse 2. Perhaps the Lord will perform wonders for us, as in times past, that he will withdraw from us. It's just this whole, we've mentioned it before, God's not a vending machine God. It's not like put in your prayer and it's like, a prayer and answer will come out. In this, it's kind of like, we've cocked up in the past, but God's always come through for us. Maybe he'll just do that again. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Well, like that.
It's so bad, isn't it? The way that they're talking about him, as you said, as a vending machine God. And
we'll be treating like that as well. It's like the plane crash. And it's like, God, please save me. It's like, you've not been listening your whole life. Why, Do
it right now, exactly. Okay, this might be the good one. I might be setting myself up for a fall, though. So Jeremiah 21, verse 9. Whoever stays in the city will die by the sword, famine, or plague. But whoever goes out and surrenders to the Babylonians who are besieging you will live. They will escape with their lives. So even now, after everything that the Israelites have done, all of the sin, all of the everything, he's still showing mercy. He's still giving people a way out, even in these final dying seconds, right?
Yeah.
Just listen to Jeremiah, go out of the city. You don't even have to do it. Just leave the city and I will spare you, right? So just remember, even in this destruction time, God is incredibly merciful and he gives us every chance up to the last second to come to him.
That's good.
Right? Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, that's all we got time for today on Two Brits and the Bible. If you like that, please share this with some of your friends. Join us at Two Brits and the Bible. And tomorrow's readings are Jeremiah 23, 24, and 25. And Adam has nothing to say now because I've done it all right there.